But when I grew up, I was a little boy, and I watched the Steelers all during the days when in the '70s when they were going to Super Bowls, and they were Bob Bradshaw, and John Stallworth, Lynn Swan, and I was one of those little kids who was in the backyard dropping back, and I was Terry Bradshaw, and I was Joe Namath too. Those were my two heroes growing up that I wanted to be like as far as playing professional. I dreamt about doing it. I was one of those kids that, that's all I wanted to do. I wanted to play professional football. Came from a family of 6 boys. Remember many times that my dad, as I said in the opening ceremonies last night, that would not let me go out in the backyard, would not let me eat until I was done throwing the football in the backyard. And my dad always taught me one thing, and I know this is something you probably have heard before, but that no matter where I went or where we played, there was always somebody probably going to be better than you. But it's what you put into it is what counts. And one thing my father taught me at an early age, and listen to this, pay attention to this, guys. You are who you hang with. Nowadays, it's 10 times harder nowadays for kids because there's so many media outlets. There's so many television outlets. So much more media covering pros like it always has, but magnified at times 100. High school. I mean, any of you guys see today on the news about the 13-year-old kid that just signed for Tennessee? Kid, 13 years old football player, already committed to playing for Tennessee. 13-year-old. Nowadays, guys, there's so much that's going to be put on you. And you are who you hang with. You hang with the wrong people, guys, you're going to take 5 steps backwards. Watch who you hang with. It's so, so important. One of the things that Lem Barney, a very good friend of mine, Pro Football Hall of Famer, I'm sure some of you guys don't even know who he is, played many years ago, told me something that he always told his kids. And it is, show me your friends, and I'll show you your future. Think about it. Your friends are your future. You hang out with guys that are no good, that will get you in trouble, your future doesn't look very bright, does it? You hang with the right people. And that was one thing my dad stressed. This was back in the '60s, guys. My father always stressed to us, don't hang with this person, don't hang with that person, you're going to get in trouble. What happened? Those kids always got in trouble. Thank God that I listened to my parents. But I didn't have a guy like myself or Steve Tasker or Mark Kelso to tell me some of those things. And the reason I'm telling you guys this, you're juniors and seniors, you guys are getting older, this is a part of your life where you really start to think of who you're going to be with, who you're going to hang with. Because I know this is a time where the alcohol, the drugs, and all those things will start kicking in. You guys, every single one of you guys, are smart enough to realize the difference between right and wrong. And I know you probably heard it from your parents. But guys, if you want to be something, you want to make something of yourselves, listen to what I said. I mean, if you don't want to, fine. Watch where you end up. Show me your friends. I'm going to show you your future. Remember what I said, okay, guys? Because when I was growing up, I went to Penn State football camp my junior and senior year. I wanted to be a professional football player. I wanted to play for Penn State. Frank Reich went to football camp with me. Didn't even know who he was. I met him at camp and wound up playing with the Bills for the majority of my career with him. But I went to Penn State to play quarterback. And to make a long story short, it was recruiting. It was my senior year in high school. They came to my basketball. How many guys play basketball too? Well, Penn State came to my basketball games to watch me play. And I thought for sure I'm wearing Penn State, those boring colors. But I wanted to play for Joe Paterno. Just a couple weeks before national signing date, he called me up and said, Jim, we've already signed 2 All-State quarterbacks, and we'll give you a full ride, full scholarship, but as a middle linebacker. That devastated me because I wanted to play quarterback. So I decided that I didn't want to play linebacker at Penn State, so I wound up going to the University of Miami. Fast forward a little bit. Went to Miami to throw the football, and there was a coach by the name of Lou Saban. You guys know who Lou Saban is? He just passed away. He used to be the Buffalo Bills head football coach back when O.J. Simpson played here, Joe Ferguson, back in the days where they were a pretty good running team. And he was my college coach. He said they were going to throw the football. I got to Miami. They ran the veer offense. And if you see me run the football, you know I'm not a veer quarterback, an option quarterback. I was going to transfer to Tennessee. But my brother Pat, my oldest brother, said, wait and find out who they bring in, because he heard we heard that Lou Saban was going somewhere else. So what happened, Howard Schnellenberger came in, became the head coach, and with him Earl Morrall. Earl Morrall, everybody knows the 72 Miami Dolphins undefeated team, right? Does anybody know who the quarterback was for that team? Pardon? Earl Morrall. What happened was early in the season, Bob Greasy got hurt. Earl Morrall quarterbacked him all the way through until the Super Bowl. Bob Greasy came in, they won the Super Bowl. But Earl Morrall, who played for the Baltimore Colts, played for the Dolphins their undefeated season, that was my quarterback coach. He coached me all the way through. Now, fast forward all the way through. It was my freshman year, after I was redshirted my freshman year. We're playing at Penn State. Now, I've worked myself from being fifth string my freshman year to now my redshirt freshman year. Now we're throwing the football. I'm now the backup for our team. And anybody know who my backup quarterback behind me was? Mike Rodriguez was our first string quarterback. I was the second string quarterback. And I'll give a hat besides you, Chad. You too, creature. Anybody knows who the third string quarterback was for the Miami Hurricanes back when I played?
Was it Vinny Testaverde?
Nope. I'll give you a hint. Georgia Bulldogs. Who? That's $1. Mark Richt, the head coach of the University of Georgia, was my quarterback. He wound up being my backup throughout the course of my college career. But what happened was, we were heading to Penn State to play at Penn State. 90,000 fans. I come from a town of 800 people in my town. We had no traffic lights. We had 28 players on my football team. 23, 28, something I can't remember anymore. 65 in my graduating class. Now we're going to Penn State. I'm the backup. Schnellenberger tells me just a couple hours before the game, he said, oh, by the way, we're starting you today at quarterback. Penn State was ranked, I think, in the top 10. We were 3 wins, 4 losses. I have never played. I mean, I played a little bit against Syracuse and backup when we played right here. But now it's we're playing against Penn State at Penn State. I'm a freshman. We beat Penn State. We upset them 26-10. My first 4 starts as a freshman quarterback were against Penn State, Alabama, Notre Dame, and Florida. Were my first 4 starts as a college quarterback. We won 2 and we lost 2. Fast forward to my senior year. I'm up for the Heisman Trophy. John Elway, Dan Marino, Herschel Walker, myself, Heisman. 4th game of the season playing against Virginia Tech. I blow out my shoulder. I ripped it out. Right after the operation the next day, the doctor came out and he said, I hope you studied. I said, why is that? He said, you totally tore all the ligaments in your shoulder. You may never get the range of motion back. From that point on, my brother said to me, he says, don't ever let somebody tell you can't do something. Put your mind to it, anything's possible. And of course, I rehabbed my shoulder more than I've ever worked in my life because I want to take care of the 2 people that I love more than anything, is my mother and my father. So I was able to rehab my shoulder. This is kind of funny because everybody knows who John Elway is, right? John Elway, the year that we were drafted, I was coming off a shoulder injury. I haven't played a game since my 4th game my senior year in college. It's the draft. It's no longer like you see nowadays, guys, where, you know, it's ESPN, they fly all the top 10, 15 players in New York City. It wasn't like that back when I was drafted. I was sitting at my agent's house, sitting on a recliner. My mother on the right arm of the recliner, my dad on the left arm of the recliner. I'm sitting there watching the TV, and that's when John Elway decided he didn't want to play for the Baltimore Colts. So my agent looked at me and he said, Jim, is there anybody you don't want to play for? I go, oh yeah. I don't want to play for the Minnesota Vikings. Remember, I went to Miami to get out of that cold weather. I don't want to play for the Green Bay Packers, and I sure don't want to play for the Buffalo Bills. So here we are, 12th pick in the 1st round. Come up, Pete Rozelle gets up and he says, first pick, 12th pick in the 1st round. The Buffalo Bills select, besides my nephew and my brother, coaches. Anybody know who they picked? Very good. Remind me to get you an extra hat. Tony Hunter, tight end from Notre Dame. I go, yeah, and I jumped out of my seat, knocked my mother off the arm of the chair we were sitting on, right under her tail. I felt so bad I had to pick my mother back up. I said, I'm not going to Buffalo. My agent looked at me and said, Jim, relax. The Bills also have the 14th pick of the first round. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Needless to say, the Bills picked me 14th pick of the first round. I cried. I said, I cannot believe this. And reporters called. I know there's probably a couple of reporters here. And they were saying, hey, your first round pick. And I was telling them how excited I was to become a Buffalo Bill. I lied. I didn't want to play Buffalo.